Warning, this podcast is not for the faint of heart.
We keep it real and raw.
And talk about issues that other podcasts wouldn't dare. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast with Dr. Spencer. Step into our world. What do you do if you fall in love with one of your kids' friends who's over 18? How do you handle getting caught in bed with your boss? Why do girls like bad boys? Are you burned out from an unbalanced career and personal life? Are you still working while your kids are telling you how their days went? Our passion is to help people in relationships, anyone you have a connection with in life, neighbors, coworkers, family, spouse, kids, yourself, and helping you achieve the work-life balance. Let's have some fun and let's get educated. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast. And now your host, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer.
And welcome. You know who it is, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer, and welcome to the Truth of the Matter podcast with Dr. Spencer. Please do not forget to subscribe, share, leave comments, whatever, because I love to hear what you guys think and even some ideas for upcoming episodes. So let's get right into it. I have Kate Holohan. Now, let me just explain something. She is when you talk about hair therapy, she is the person. Her story is extraordinary when it comes to especially salons. We're going to talk about that later or in a few. Going from less than 15 all the way to 200 and having to decide between, do I embark on my franchise and or do I, even with my partner, which one do I choose between? Do I have to choose? So, Kate, thank you so very much for coming on. And like I said to you earlier, I said, I love the haircut and the color. But, you are the expert in this, so I wouldn't expect anything less. Thank you so very much for joining.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. All the way from the UK. Am I right?
Yeah.
Wow. So tell us, so you went to school. You got the education. You started and didn't know if you really want to be in a franchise, but boom, here we are. You're talking about growth spurt? I think that's an understatement. You did it, girl. So tell us how it started, how it all began.
Well, to be honest, I've always been quite a creative, artistic person. But my mum especially had big plans for me to go to art school, go to art college, and be like an illustrator or something like that. But I ended up moving out of home at 17. So even then I had quite a bit of choice. Do I try and struggle to get my education finished while trying to support myself? But I was basically getting to the point where I was falling asleep in class, having to work weekends and way into the night, just trying to get money for food and rent. While I was doing my A-levels. So I was about 17. I ended up moving out of home and trying to support myself. Decided that I just could not finish putting myself through sixth form to try and get my qualifications done and work and support myself. So that was when I basically decided that if I was going to quit school, not complete my A-levels, not go to university, that I really wanted to get some kind of trade behind me, something that I could build a career out of, that wasn't just going to be a job, that I could do, that I could build on and give me some skills that I could use in my life. So I went into a really small little salon near where I lived at the time and did kind of a trial in there and started as an apprentice. And just absolutely loved it. I never looked back. But I've always been really still into education and learning and trying to grow and improve. So every time I finished my hair qualification, I went on to the next one. Then I began to get into teaching. and just wanted to progress more and more from there. So while I was teaching, I met a really lovely lady that was my mentor while I was learning how to be a hairdressing assessor. And she messaged me one day and she said, "Oh, come and work in this salon. There's this salon group. They've got 12 salons. They want to open their own training academy to teach hair. And I think you'd be perfect to run it." Now, I'd only been assessing for about 5 months at the time. I was very newly qualified trainer. And I said, "There's no way that I can do this. Like, it's too much. I'm not qualified enough. I've got enough qualifications. I've not got enough experience." And she was absolutely amazing lady. So in the end, she said, "Do you know what, sod it, I'm going to go and do it myself." So I said, great. So she ran the training academy. And then every year for about 5 years, she would ring me up and say, "When are you going to come and work for me? Come and work for me. Come and work for me." So, but it was quite far away. So in the end, after 5 years, I'd done a lot of training and learned a lot and got more qualified. And in the end, I said, "Fine, I'll come and teach with you." So working for this salon group in their education department, we had a Christmas party and they basically were wanting to expand. So they decided at the time that they wanted to go from 12 hairdressing salons in the UK to 200. So they knew they weren't going to be able to do that without franchising, because they couldn't grow that big on their own. So they started to get blocks of 10 franchisees. They'd open 10 salons, and then a couple of months later, they'd open 10 more, and then 10 more. And every time they got the money in from those, because obviously they were taking money off the top from everyone. So every time they grew and grew, they could afford to get then 10 more. And they put an advert in on the menu. So we were at this Christmas party, might have had 1 or 2 drinks, not going to lie. And I saw this and it said franchise opportunities are available in the following areas, including my hometown in Kent. And because I was working in Croydon, which is nearly 50 miles away, I looked at this. It had never occurred to me before that I even wanted my own salon. I was really happy in education. I really enjoyed that side of it. I love doing my clients. I love working in a salon. But from having worked in a salon for, at the time, probably about 15 years, I did have quite a good understanding of what it would take to run one. And I knew there was loads of support there. And I just looked at this opportunity that was literally handed to me. And I thought, if I don't do this, I'm going to walk past that salon every day looking, thinking that could have been me. So I went to my boss and I said to her, "What do you think about this?" And she went, "Katie, honestly, you could do it with your eyes closed." She was like, "I don't want to lose you as an educator, but if you want to do this, then you have my backing. 100% you can definitely do it. You should find out, like, go and speak to them about it." Now, at the time, I had a boyfriend and we were very much in love. We'd been traveling together. We'd been all around New Zealand and Fiji and LA. We had a great time. We were quite close. He was quite a good influence on me because I probably do work too much. So I'm a lot more kind of like work and enjoy spare time when you get it. He used to work, save up, and then go and travel or go and do something fun with that money. And his career path and views on career were very different. He was a lot more kind of like, it's just a job, like it's just a way to get money. It's the time out of work that you really enjoy yourself. But possibly that's one thing about hairdressing. Hairdressers are one of the happiest peoples in their career that you have.
Yes, they are.
So, yeah. And for me especially, I really enjoyed my career and I enjoyed my work anyway. And so I wasn't going to work every day thinking, "Oh, can't wait for 5 p.m. This is just to get some money." I loved my career. I loved my growth. And I loved the people that I worked with. I loved my clients. But I saw this opportunity. I went and spoke to the owners of the company, and they basically said, sure, if you want to do it, let's do it. So I spoke to my boyfriend at the time, and I said to him, you do understand that this company is relentless. And let's face it, one of the reasons why they wanted franchise salons and not company-owned salons is because if you've got financial investment and personal investment in that salon, you are going to put in 110% commitment. If you're employed as a manager in that salon and they start telling you you've got to work 12 hours a day, 80-hour weeks, 7 days a week for months on end, for probably £1 an hour, there's no one that's going to take that on. When it's your business and it's your baby, then of course you're going to put everything into that because you're invested in that. You want to see it succeed. So, and I did it all 100%. So as I said, I moved out of home when I was 17. At this time, I was probably about 28, I think, maybe. And I did it all on my own. I had no backing, no kind of family to help me, no investors, no shareholders. I just said 100%, I'm all in, give me the salon and I'll do it. And I said that to him at the time, that obviously this is going to be a lot. It's going to be a huge undertaking. It's going to be a lot of work. If I don't have your backing with this, it's not going to work. And he said, yeah, 100% behind you. I am definitely supportive. Let's go for it. So I signed up for a 5-year contract, signed the deal, got the salon. Launch day was absolutely incredible. There were people all over the place. The bosses were coming up to me saying, this is an amazing salon. This is going to do so well. You know, this is the best place we could do it. Everything's going to be great. I think we opened on something like the 9th of March. And I think my first day off was the 27th of September. So we were open 7 days a week. We were open 9 till 8, Monday to Friday. I think Sundays was 10 till 5 or 10 till 4. Saturdays was something like 9 till 5 or 6. I was expected to be there. If that salon was open, I was expected to be there working. So I used to do 80-hour weeks, and I used to come home absolutely exhausted and absolutely wrung out. But any new business that you start up, if you don't put the time and the effort in, how are you supposed to get it to be a success and build? I had staff that I needed to train, people that I needed to keep an eye on, clients that I was expected to do, people I was expected to educate and train and motivate, and staff meetings and accounts and basically everything there, the banking, the reports, everything that was down to me. And so by the September, when I had my first day off, you could see that the patience was starting to wear off. There was cracks were starting to show. The support was starting to wane. And it got to the point where he was a bit like, when am I going to see you? I want more attention from you. I want to do stuff. So on the 27th of September, which, like I say, was my first day off, I had to go out for dinner for his dad's birthday. And all I wanted to do, if I'm honest, was crawl in a little hole and sleep for about 2 days and not talk to anyone. And he just he'd never been in that high pressure work situation. He'd always had weekends off, always had downtime, always had time to himself. I used to come home really stressed. So I get it wasn't great for him either, because all he'd get is me at the end of the day saying, I'm tired, I'm stressed, I don't want to talk to anyone else. No, I don't want to do anything. I want to eat and then I want to go to sleep. So I get it. But unfortunately, once you sign up to something like that, that's it. It's like I said to you when we had a chat before, it's like having a baby.
Yeah.
You agree to have a baby. 5-6 months down the line, you can't say, this is too much, I'm exhausted, take it back. once you've signed up for something like that, it's a commitment. That's it. There is no going back. So he started to demand more and more of my time and say, I want to see you more, I want to do more with you. And that was lovely. But unfortunately, when you own a franchise, you are not in control. You're told, oh, this is your salon and you can do this, and it's your responsibility. When everything's going wrong, it's your responsibility and it's your place. But when everything's going right, trust me, they're happy to take all the credit for it. But you can't do what you want to do. If I wanted to take a day off, I would get a phone call from the head office. Why aren't you in? Even if I took an hour off, why are you booked out? Why aren't you in? Why aren't you at work? Why have you booked this hour out? Well, because I need to do all the banking. You need to be doing clients. You need to be making money. It was such high expectations on me to be there all the time, to be working all the time, to be making money. I didn't even get a lot of the time when I was there to work on my business because of the amount of time I was expected to work in the business. It was really difficult. So then to have my partner start saying to me, this, I want more of a relationship, I want more. I didn't have any more to give. So I said to him, look, I need a break. I can't do this. Something's got to give. And at the end of the day, nothing else can. So I need a break. I need a couple of weeks where I just don't have any pressure from anyone, if anyone asks me to do anything. And he basically said, well, I don't want a break, because if we have a break, what that really means is we're going to split up. And I said, well, we can't carry on like this. So there is only one other choice, and that is for us to split up. So if you're not happy to give us a break because you're worried we're going to split up, it's going to end up in us splitting up. So that, unfortunately, that's what happened. I didn't really have any other choice but to put my career and my salon first, because I was invested in that. I was tied in. There was nothing more I could do. And unfortunately, it's all very well to say to someone, yes, I'll support you if we do this. But the idea of things, a lot of the time, it's very easy to agree to something in principle, isn't it? To actually put it in practice and put your money where your mouth is can sometimes be, that's where the real truth of the effort comes in. And to run a business where you are needed all the time, you can't just turn around after 6 months and go, oh, brilliant, oh, I'll go part-time now, thank you, yeah, let everyone else run it. Obviously, it would have been a dream if I could have done, but I couldn't. And the fact that I didn't get to go to university or business school that time, so I ended up having that salon for 2.5 years, and then the company took it over, and I then went to work in London as a studio technician and an educator for one of the leading global brands. So I've had an amazing career out of it. I've worked for 2 leading global brands as colour educators. One of them, I basically run the colour education department for not only the UK but for globally, and produce their education material. I've worked with people that have won British Hairdresser of the Year 2 or 3 times. And what I learned in those 2.5 years from running that salon is more than I would have learned in 5 years of business school. I guarantee it. I got so much out of that. And it's funny that a lot of the franchisees who don't have a franchise with them anymore, the first thing they did was go off and set their own salon up. Because I think you do get so much from having that experience that it sets you up to be able to run your own business and do what you want. So it was an invaluable experience for me, really. And it was a shame that the relationship ended. But then at the same time, in a way, perhaps it did do me a favour, because if the relationship was put under a strain and it was tested and it fell at the first hurdle, then that, that shows you that it wasn't maybe meant to last. And I'm glad that hurdle was a career and not a baby or something else that would have put that strain on, an ill relative, say, that I had to go and take care of every day. If it had been something a lot more commitment or a lot more serious, then I really needed a partner to back me up at that time, then that would have been an even worse time for it to fail. So at the end of the day, these things are sent to test us, aren't they, really?
No, you're absolutely right. First of all, I commend you because you're right. I have another friend, and her family belongs to a franchise, and I did not realize the work, the dedication, and everything that it went into. Like, for instance, you have to do exactly how that overall the head or whatever does. Like, you can't really change too much of anything.
No. When I went to sign my contracts, I had quite a new solicitor, because it costs a lot of money to get someone to basically witness the contracts and to sign everything. And he was really keen because he was quite new. And he kept coming to me saying, well, see this clause here? I really don't like that. I think we should ask them if we could change it. And I just said, they won't. There is no point. If I sign this contract as it is, or they give the salon to someone else, I don't get a say. It's like, in a way, signing with the devil, because once you sign that, but I can understand it, because at the end of the day, it's partly because they just see you as a tool to get what they want. They don't want people owning their own salons. They want to own it all. They just can't do it. So they use you to get there faster. But the point of a franchise is that it's sustainable and that they are standardized. If you went into a McDonald's, which actually, funnily enough, I don't know if you've watched, there's a it's not a documentary, is it? But I think it's on Amazon Prime, there is a show about the making of McDonald's.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. And when they first set up, the guy is outraged because one of the franchises starts selling fried chicken or something like that. And he's furious, and he's like, but we sell burgers and we sell this and we sell this. And you have to have that there, because if you go into a McDonald's anywhere in the world, you expect a certain menu, a certain uniform, a certain layout, a certain format. And so I understand that with the salons, that's the same. They want a certain level of customer service. They want the same level of customer service in every place. They want the customer experience to be there. They want that control. So I understand why they do it, but also at the time, I well understood that it was not really my salon.
Right. And you're right, to your point. So one of my friends, her in-laws own, they're part of the McDonald's franchise. And as she was telling me, this was years ago, they went to McDonald's University, because when we think of, okay, a Big Mac, and we're like, okay, you got the sauce, the cheese, the lettuce. There is a way that burger is stacked. Mm-hmm. Even when you have the buns, and it slides off onto the the oven or stove, whatever. There is a way. So you're right. I was elated. I'm like, wow, you own a McDonald's? And she's like, ho, it's not like that. No, even down to the uniform. Mm-hmm. So you're right. So technically you are the owner of that franchise, but you belong to the overall business or parent company. You can't do what you want.
Right. It's really the ultimate pyramid scheme, really, because they're the only ones that ever actually make out. But like I say, financially, I certainly did not gain from it, and certainly not as much as they did. But I did, my experience there was invaluable, and I cannot fault that. And it was a lovely salon. And I did really, most of the time, when I was not so exhausted I could barely stand up, I did enjoy my time there a lot. So I can't argue with it. And I think in a way, I would never say anything's a failure, because at the end of the day, every kind of redirection, every rejection is a redirection. Every time that you go a certain path and it only takes you so long, you then go on to something that you could never have even imagined. If you actually got everything you planned out in your life, you'd actually probably be pretty fed up by the end of it and bored and not reach your full potential. So in a lot of ways, I'm really glad for it all. I mean, that guy went on, I think he owns a very, he works for himself now. I know that he had a couple of kids, I'm sure he's very happy. But like I say, in a way, I'm quite glad that I didn't end up, I could have been with him another 5 years and then something else could have come along that tested us and we still could have ended up with the exact same result. So in a way, it probably saved me a lot of time. And it also showed me then I really did have no one. So I was running this whole huge business and trying to pay a mortgage and look after myself all on my own. And I did it.
Yes. And I'm glad you said that, because of course I've never owned a franchise or any of that, but I remember being in a relationship where it's almost like it's like you had to deal with it, because it's like, do I choose my career, which I love, or this person? And for me, it's like every time it was something, it was always a conversation, and they do want time, they really do. But unfortunately, when you have taken on that franchise or whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a franchise, but when you take on that project or that goal, you want to meet it, because you don't want to ever question, well, the what ifs. What if I didn't do it? And you're right. It's always a great opportunity. You're absolutely right. It was the same with me, to the point where he would kind of pick like little arguments. And I'm like, gosh, and you're right. Sometimes you're so tired, and I'm sure you felt this way, till you're delirious. So even when you lay down to go to sleep, your brain is still spinning.
Well, mine's always like that anyway, at the best of times, so you can imagine how bad it was.
Yes.
But I feel as well like I do understand that relationships take work and time. And if you are the person that's had to take that back seat and you're not getting that full attention from your partner, then I get that that's extremely lonely and frustrating and difficult. But I didn't commit to something without his knowledge, and my work just suddenly built up, and all of a sudden here we are. We discussed it beforehand. I explained what it was going to be like. He said, yeah, I'm fine with that. And then when the reality hit, he wasn't fine with it. But what you've also got to understand, if you're going to be with someone for 20, 30, 40 years time, there are going to be times where, like, for example, when you do have kids, a lot of parents kind of put their marriage or their relationship on hold while they have small kids, because at that particular season in their relationship, their children are the focus and they're what's most important. They know it's not going to be forever, but for that time, that is where you have to put your time and your energy. And the same thing with running a business. There is only so much to give. So you cannot be up all night with a small baby, have 2 hours sleep, try and keep them alive all day, and have a fantastic, amazing marriage where you schedule me time and dates and you're putting your best clothes and makeup on and shaving your legs and everything like that. There's not enough bandwidth in your brain or time in the day to do everything. And certain times you might have to be that supportive partner that takes a backseat in order for your partner to excel. And then in another time, it may be the other way around. So if we'd have got through that, and then he decided he wanted to go self-employed and go out on his own and set up his business, and my salon was established by then, and I had a manager in, and I was able to take the time, then I would have said to him, right, now it's time for me to reciprocate. Now it's my time to take a back seat. I understand that you're going to be busy at work for a while. That's, that because we can't all, relationships do take a lot of work, and I would never say away from that, but you cannot be the person's focus 100% of the time, all the time. It's just no one would ever get anything done.
You're absolutely right. And, even I agree with you. We had the conversation and I said, look, this is what it's going to entail.
Yeah.
I need you to back me. But once I finish, it's your turn.
Yeah.
And the reason I didn't want him to feel like I was trying to go before him. It wasn't that way. It just kind of how the chips lined up. And I said, look, you support me. I got you 100%. But unfortunately, sometimes, it's easier to say, yes, I'm with you.
That's what you want to say, isn't it? Even if you don't think you can. But I would rather be with someone that told me the truth than told me what I wanted to hear. And I would rather be with someone that said to me, do you know what? I'm not sure if I want to be in a relationship with someone that's gone 80 hours of the week and is not going to do it. I don't know if we are going on the same path or not. I would much rather someone say that than someone go, yeah, I'll back you. You sign the papers, and then they go, oh, I didn't think it was going to be this hard. But on the same point, I feel like I wouldn't want to be that person. So I would never want to be with someone and stop them from achieving their dream and then have them end up resenting me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would never want that to happen to me either. Like, imagine if I have said to this company, look, my boyfriend can't cope with this. It's ruining our relationship. Let me take a back seat now. Take the salon off me. I'll just work in it, give it to someone else. Imagine the resentment then that I would have for him. And the whole time then you'd be thinking, I could have done more. What if I'd have done this? What if I hadn't taken that salon on because I was worried about what it might do to our relationship? And then I had to walk past it every day and look at it and think that could have been me.
You're right. I know in the middle, and what I did was I went back to school for my doctorate, and it was a lot. And I had a small child and was married. And so I said, in the middle of it, I said, I don't want to get promoted at work or any of that stuff. Let me help him get, his career jump started. But it was a lot because I had like a long commute to work back and forth, small child. And then on top of that, I was in a relationship or married, and he wanted to start his. And I agreed because I didn't want him to feel like I had forgotten or he was like on the back burner. I wanted him to see some type of movement. And so it was a lot, to the point where delirious. I was literally sometimes so tired that I was sick, but I could never be at rest.
No.
Because it was always something. And even now, Kate, let me ask you a question. Do people ask you, because I know people always ask me, like, why are you not in a relationship? Why are you not married? Why is this? Why is that? And I'm like, who is going to get into a relationship with a person who is, well, there's people out there, but when you're working 15, 16 hours a day, it's not fair almost.
Well, funnily enough, so like I say, I don't have the salon anymore. And after I had not had the salon anymore, I was working in London for a product company. I've had a lot of other, not as time intensive jobs, still good jobs. And then a couple of years later, I did meet a guy, get married and have a baby. So, but again, thank God in a way that I didn't have that franchise salon anymore, because if I'd have stayed there, if I'm honest, I don't know if I ever would have been able to have a baby, because it was so intense and so demanding. I don't think that they would have kind of allowed it. So at some point, I think I would have had to have chosen my future over that salon, unless it was in a much better place where I could run it more remotely, which they didn't really like. But I did continue to date when I was there, and I did end up dating a guy before I left the salon and met my husband. I dated a guy who was a lot more ambitious, a lot more career focused, a lot more driven, and was basically just as busy as me and just as ambitious as me. So he really got it. And if I said, no, I've got to work, in a way, we kind of had more of a thing of work comes first. For now, work comes first. When we're both millionaires and we're sorted, we'll be on our yacht, we'll be all right. But at the moment, and so he really understood it. His parents were really, because my parents didn't, I didn't really get any support from them, any help, any understanding. They'd never done anything like this. His parents were really career passionate. They were entrepreneurs. They'd done some really great stuff. They helped and supported me quite a lot, which was amazing. And now I have an amazing boyfriend. So now at the moment, I've just spent the last 2 years studying trichology, which is not as intense as a doctorate, but it is a lot of work, trust me. So really in-depth study of the science behind the hair and scalp and everything to do with the hair and scalp. So I've just spent the last 2 years doing that. I also teach, and I do all my clients, hairdressing clients, and I have my 8-year-old to look after as a single parent.
That's a lot though. Yeah,
it's a lot. But I have the most amazing boyfriend now. But again, we don't live together. We allow each other our own space. I enjoy having my own space now more than I ever have.
Yes.
I have a lot to do. He enjoys his own space, his own company. He's got kids too. So we both want to spend time spending time with our kids as well. It's not all focused on the relationship. And again, he gets it. If I say I've got to work or I've got to do this, he's like, I get it. I understand. That's fine. We don't take anything as a personal rejection. I feel like I'm a lot more confident in myself. He's really confident and secure in himself. So when we do spend time together, it's great because we are 100% there, and we spend less time together, but it's quality time, and we want to spend together and we focus on each other. And I use it as a really good excuse to get a bit of a break as well. Because I'm sure you're exactly the same as me. If you had a Sunday off to yourself,
yes,
would you sit around all day eating a roast dinner, watching Netflix, chilling out? No. Would you go for a nice walk? No. But if you're with a partner and you schedule in downtime, it's great. And then I go back and do my work, and he goes back and does his work, and we get on with it. And it really does work. But it's taken years of me trying to be true to myself, not trying to do anything that doesn't really align with my beliefs and what I want. Me also having a little bit more courage to schedule downtime and say no and set boundaries and limits on myself, which I certainly didn't have 10, 15 years ago. Yes. And I probably did so too much. So I think there's a bit of a compromise there, but
you're absolutely right. So even for me, you're absolutely right with the downtime. It's almost like if I get 15 minutes, I am so happy, but I'm always thinking about the next thing.
Yeah.
it's always the next thing. And you're right. Like
or what you should be doing.
Exactly.
Or what you could be doing.
Exactly. And then I feel like I'm wasting time. If I take 15 minutes, I'm thinking like, no, I'm not. I need to kind of recenter. And I have a teenager. She always wants to go out, especially with her friends and just different things. And I'm like, you know what? I have to carve in time for that. And, it's easier said than done. When you're doing your own thing, it is hard because you're it. And then if you have help, you have to train them. So that still takes time. And it's great that you actually have someone who understands, and you're alike. It's great because it's hard to find that. Again, like we were just saying, it's easy to say, yeah, I'll do it. You're right. I'll agree with you. Go do your thing until it happens. And they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah. What about me?
What about me?
But I do think that is quite a big thing as well. And I think it is very easy in a relationship. And I think what I've really struggled with as well, with my ex and with my ex before that, you are not responsible for your partner's happiness or entertainment or well-being. So at the time, there probably was a little bit of codependency. And I get, to a certain extent, obviously, of course, if you like someone, you want to spend time with them. But if you're with someone and you are their only source of happiness or company or enjoyment, everybody needs their own life as well, their own hobbies, their own interests, something that you can do where you're not relying on that one person to be everything for you. And I think that's the difference now. I've like I say, I've lived on my own since I was 17. I've never needed a boyfriend. I've never needed a partner. I've never needed to be with anyone. So for me, I have to want to be with that person. And if they're bringing me enjoyment and happiness and adding to my life, then great. But when it just seems like another thing to have to do and take care of, and more kind of stress and pressure and responsibility, then it becomes overwhelming for me and it's too much. And I think now, because I've done so much work on myself, I've now met someone who's also done so much work on themselves, and we're both in a much better place. And that's why it kind of works, because we don't take things personally. If he doesn't, but if he says, well, I can't see you tonight because I'm busy or whatever, I don't take that as a personal rejection or start thinking, oh, he doesn't want to be with me anymore. We let each other live our lives more than probably I have. I think when you're younger, you're so intense, aren't you? You just want to be in each other's pockets and it's all about the other person, and it's not sustainable.
You're absolutely right. You're right. And I know for me, I even felt obligated, like, okay, let me just take the day and we could spend time. And I've had other people ask, even like dating, they'll say, well, when do you have time? That is always the first. When do you have time and what do you need me for? Yeah.
And it's one thing I love about my boyfriend is he wants to see me and we want to spend that time together. But he's never like, why are you always working? He's never needy. He's never like, why are you always working? When am I going to get to see you? And almost criticizing. Like I've had it before where people almost seemed, if I was doing a qualification and I was working on myself to gain things for our future, then it would be, oh, you're always studying, you're always busy, you're always doing this. Well, I'm only doing it to better myself in my career. Everything that we do, we're doing so that we have a better future, which impacts our relationship and is for them.
Exactly. So, I'm so glad you said that. You've said a couple times, and you're absolutely right. My parents worked really hard. We never even went on vacation. Our vacation was like going to see family, right? They worked hard. But because they worked hard, it allowed like my stepsister and I to have great lives. And it allowed our children too. So you're right, because I was always the mindset, because they taught us work hard when you're young, so that way when you reach a certain age, yes, you have choices. You're okay. You're not, if you decide to work when you're like 60, 70, whatever, you're working because that's something you want to do, but not because you have to. You're not playing catch up. So you're right. That was my mindset. And I even said to my ex, I said, look, we're going to work hard now, because when we reach a certain age, or if something happens medically, we're still okay.
Yeah. And it's really hard, because I do understand there's probably a lot of people out there that are in relationships where their partners work all hours and they don't see them as much as they want, or their partners work away, or, that you've always got the kids to look after and you never feel like you get a bit of time just for the two of you or what have you. And it's really, really hard when you're in it. But I think it's really hard to appreciate at the time the sacrifices that those people are making sometimes for the bigger picture.
Yes.
And when you're a child, a lot of the time, you don't appreciate it. You say, oh, my dad was never there. He was always working. And then when you get to 25, 30, 40, and you're a parent and you see how hard it is and you see how necessary it is, that's when it clicks and you go, oh my God, my dad sacrificed. He was so tired every time he came in from work. He worked so hard that you don't always appreciate at the time what those people are actually doing for you.
Yes. I've had to tell my mother, thank you so many times, because I did not get it. But she did say, wait until you become an adult. Wait until you have a child. You're going to see. I did not realize, even going to school, $1,000 for this, $2,000 for that, because she had to plan. So for us, you're always forethinking, because what's in store. It. But let me just ask you a question, because I want to go back to this, because I thought it was so cool. So you teach about, you're an instructor. So you just went back to school. Now, what did you go to school for? Because I have not heard too many people actually going to school for this. I'm going to let you say, but I'm sorry, going to school for this, because I don't think people realize when it comes to hair, it's a therapy, and everyone probably is different, because you have people on medication, they have people on illnesses. Can you please explain that? Because I thought that was so awesome.
So here's a little bit of a different one. You're not the only person who doesn't know what a trichologist is, trust me. Whenever I say I'm qualified trichologist, everyone, the first thing they say is, what is that?
Yeah.
Always. But this is my problem. So this is why I am talking on podcasts. It's why I started my own podcast, the Hair Therapy Podcast, because when I started studying, I would say to people, I'm learning to be a trichologist, and they would say, what's that? If people don't know that we're here and they don't know what we are and what we exist, how are we supposed to help people? So in America, it's slightly different. So over here, dermatologists, which I'm sure you've heard of, mainly focus on the skin, and trichologists mainly focus on the hair and scalp. In America, you are starting to have trichologists there, but also a lot of the dermatologists that you have will do all of it. They will see all of it more. Whereas over here, dermatologists don't really tend to get too involved with the hair and scalp. So it is a really, really niche area. But from studying hair and from doing hairdressing for 23 years, it actually amazes me. And from teaching hair for 19 years, the amount I didn't know about the science behind the hair and scalp is amazing. So there is so much. I studied for 2 years just on the hair and scalp. So all it means now is that I can really help people on a deeper level. So doing hairdressing is amazing. If you do someone's hair for their wedding, you really have some control over whether they have the best day of their life or the worst day of their life. if you cut someone's hair wrong or you bleach it and it all snaps off, you know, you can really affect people's lives. But trust me, when you start looking at things that we deal with as trichologists, like hair loss, hair shedding, psoriasis, scalp problems, lesions on the scalp, even kind of skin cancers. There are a lot of scarring conditions, autoimmune conditions. There are a lot of things that people can suffer with that really can mean, you know, a massive difference. Some people, even just from hair loss, they don't want to leave the house. You know, it can affect them. I mean, these are people that won't enter into relationships. They won't go for that promotion. You know, hair loss, even some scalp problems can be huge. So to be able to help people now in a much bigger capacity and deal with all the problems that I've seen clients come in with for the last 23 years and not really have the answers to, I now have the answers. But even the hairdressers that I speak to don't know what a trichologist is. No. So I'm on a mission, one person at a time. I'm going to spread the word and everyone's going to find out.
Can I just please tell you, people like me are so thankful. When I tell you, first of all, I never heard of a trichologist. But when I looked at, was looking things up here about you, when I tell you, you are like God sent to people like me, and I'm going to tell you why. I take medication. I have MS, right? Multiple sclerosis. I did not realize that depending on the medication and even the time of year, my hair changes and the scalp changes, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, like if I want to go, just put a hair dye in a couple of years ago, fine, I dye my hair. Now I have to make sure and look at the ingredients. Like for instance, there's an ingredient, it has probably 10 letters, but it's called PPD.
Yeah.
And ammonia. I cannot have that in a hair dye because even on some of my podcasts, you'll notice like I itch a lot or whatever around my face and things because I used a hair dye that had the PPD in it. And because I'm on medication, it gives me it makes
sensitivity.
It's sensitivity, yes. Mm-hmm. And I always feel like when I'm coming on here, I always feel like I'm scratching and itching and things because of the ingredient. Now, of course, my stylist probably didn't know that. Who knew? She didn't know. He didn't know. They don't know these things. But when it comes to medication or illnesses and just different things, you're right. Literally, Kate, I woke up and I had lesions. They were gone. Then it changed the hair color. So it went from dark brown to almost like a brownish silver. It totally. And I woke up, my pillows were completely wet. Why? Because it's almost like my body was trying to fight off whatever it was. And it was it was horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. So for people like you are God sent because there's people out there that have illnesses, they're on medication. And of course, when you go to your doctors, you could be on a heart medication. Your heart doctor's not going to know about this. They're not going to talk about it.
It's not their concern as well. So again, funnily enough, I literally have just done a really good interview with another hairdresser who has her own hair-based podcast. And she did a month's worth of research into what medication does to the hair and how it affects hair color. Because again, if you're a hairstylist and you've colored someone's hair for 10 years and never had a problem, and all of a sudden you put a color on and it goes green or it irritates the scalp or something, it can be extremely terrifying as a stylist. But if you are on a blood pressure medication or on heart medication, your doctor is not really concerned if your hair is going to start thinning or go dry or brittle or fall out, because all they care about is whether you have a heart attack or whether you live, right? Hair to them is insignificant. It's not that important. It's not life-threatening. So it's very low down their list. And to be honest, in all the years that they spend studying medicine, they might do a couple of days on hair and scalp, maybe a week. They're not specialists in that area. They have 10 minutes to see you. They need to get to the root of your problem. Is it really, serious, or is it not? And like I say, to them, hair is insignificant. Unfortunately, to most of us, it's a lot more important.
You're absolutely right. But if you don't,
it's not, even the body sees hair as a non-essential item. So if there starts to be problems with your system, if your system is out of balance and you don't maintain that lovely homeostasis that your body likes, which could be from nutrients, it could be from thyroid, it could be from hormones, it can be from your immune system, it can be from stress, it can be from medication, it can be from surgery. There's so many reasons that can affect your hair growth, your hair health, and hair loss.
Yep.
All those things, we can kind of look at that and work on that. Your body, if your body's not happy, then sometimes it will say, we do not have the resources and the time to be making hair right now. So we're just going to have to leave that for now and get the body in better condition.
Right.
So even the body doesn't see hair as being significant in that case.
Yes.
But to us, it can mean a hell of a lot.
Yes. If you don't mind, Kate, can you please, I would love to have you come on again and just talk about just that.
Yeah, sure.
Because when I tell you, I know so many people that it's happening to, and you don't even know who to go to.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Exactly. And we're here. Yes. And we want to help.
Yes, but you don't even know. Like some people may hear, it's hereditary, it's the medications. But I didn't know. Like I said, I've used that dye more than a few occasions. Just that one time, I could not believe it.
Yeah,
I could not. And then, of course, nowadays, everyone is on some type of platform, some type of social media. And when you're on social media, you're scratching, you're this, that, and the other. And it's weird because it almost feels like little pins. And like, you don't know. And then you go to an allergist or a dermatologist, and what do? They give you a Benadryl. But it's not that. It's like it puts a Band-Aid on the problem. And you're right. I really appreciate people like you. And again, I want to just get you back on to just talk about that.
I will talk about hair all day long.
I appreciate it. But I want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate you coming on. I feel like I have a new friend in the UK. I love it. Thank you so very much for talking about this, the hair, the franchise. Like, we've learned like 3 big things today, that people probably wouldn't even, that we don't think about. I do. And I always see on the internet or in stores or different places, especially like our restaurants, franchisees needed, franchise for sale. Like you can make $300,000, US a year, and then you find out like, no, because you're paying into the franchise and you only really make like 20,000, I'm just, I know it's different.
Yeah. And the funniest thing was there was a few franchises, because we obviously, like I say, they did it in blocks of 10. So there was one person in our group she did really, really well and made enough money and bought herself a car. And then all that happened was, anytime our salon slipped or made a little bit less money or anything happened, they'd throw it back in her face and say, you had to buy that car.
Oh,
this is what your cars cost you. So it was never even a reward. If you started to make the money, they'd use it against you in some way. She had time off and they used that against her. She had a holiday because she deserved it, and she'd worked for 2.5 years straight and had never had a day off. And she took a holiday. and they threw that back in her face.
Wow.
So you're never really your own. I know, don't get me wrong, like I said, I definitely gained from it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but it is kind of if you're thinking about opening a business, but you don't have the experience or the backing or the money, or you're not really sure, it can be a great way in, but in a little bit of a way, you do sell your soul a bit. You're not the master of your own self all the time that you're in it. And certainly don't believe all the promises of, oh, you'll be a millionaire in 2 years. And
Right.
because like I said, there's only one real gain from that, and it's not going to be you. It's always the top of the pyramid.
Yep. So, Kate, please tell them, you have a podcast, you're doing all these things, especially when it comes to that hair, all that. Where can people find you? Now, I have her information. I'm going to make sure you guys have it. But for right now, where can they find you?
So the podcast should be available on everything. So that is the Hair Therapy Podcast. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is Hair Therapy UK. I also have a website, which is hairtherapyuk.com. For you guys who are in America, I mean, as we know, I'm not amazing with time zones, but if you wanted to do an online consultation with me, I can also do that. If you're in the UK, in Kent, then you can come and see me in person for a really in-depth consultation. If you want to ask me anything, then you can message me on Instagram, message me on Facebook, message me on Twitter, listen to some episodes of the podcast if there's anything on there that, again, I try and deal with all different aspects of hair and scalp health, different issues. So you might find something on there that resonates with you. But if you've got any questions, then feel free to message me through the website or if you look for Hair Therapy UK, you'll probably find me somewhere.
But thank you so very much for coming on again. I mean, you can't get easier than hairtherapyuk.com. If you really want it, we'll work with your schedule. I mean, it is what it is. But Kate, thank you so very much for coming on.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
A lot. Thank you. We're definitely going to keep in touch. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen to us and learn. And again, I appreciate you. And have a good morning, good afternoon, and evening, wherever you may be. Thank you so very much. And Kate, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You've been listening to The Truth of the Matter with Dr. Spencer. Yes, we talk about taboo topics, but that's life, and we keep it real and raw. Our passion is to educate and enlighten. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review the show, and we'll be back soon. But if you have a unique relationship situation and you'd like help, or you're tired of having to choose between your career and personal life, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer is a life alignment strategist and a certified life, relationship, and business coach. So make sure to reach out on Instagram and TikTok at Dr. Lamarr Spencer, on Twitter at Dr. Spencer 15, on Facebook at Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer, and the website drlamarrspencer.com. Or go old school and call 973-214-6464.
Don't forget to purchase the book, The Depth and Diversity with Relationships. Find it on Amazon and the website.
See you next time on The Truth of the Matter.